Hi everyone, it's Amanda Rieger Green coming to you with some insights into June's energies. If you listened to my last video where I talked about transitioning from May into June, I discussed paying attention to your energy field. Not only your thoughts, your emotions, but when you feel restricted, when you feel limited. And it's, again, not just emotional, there's something energetically to contraction and working to open up and expand. So as we move into June, June offers us this incredible learning opportunity and self-discovery journey through relationships. And relationships, of course, we typically think of relationships with other people, and that's where I'd like to start. But I want to remind you that relationships are like a gateway drug. Relationships are not just about your interactions with other people. They're this gateway to your relationship with your profession, your job, your relationship to your health and well-being, your relationship to your spirituality or your personal development, your personal practices, your relationship to the dialogue in your head, your mind, your thoughts, your relationship to your emotions, your relationship to your physical body, how your physical body interacts and corresponds with you. And then ultimately, your relationship to your soul, your intuition, your higher self, and above and beyond all that, your relationship to God, your higher power. So this month is incredibly rich to dive into self-discovery and your energy field to get some clues and information into what it is that's coming through for you. And from the perspective of fear and ego and doubt and limitation, that restriction and constriction of energy that I talked about last month, as well as joy, expansiveness, freedom, happiness, peace, all of those beautifully abundant qualities. So that being said, years ago, I remember I was given some exceptional insight, and this was when I was first waking up. I had just gotten sober. I was basically in the midst of paying for the consequences of my actions during my stages of addiction, and so I had gotten sober and was working on changing my behaviors, my interactions, and doing it intentionally, and also doing it with the counsel of someone else and through support and through recovery. And I was given this advice at the time. I had a meeting with a boss, and because of the consequences of some of my actions that had happened prior to my journey to recovery, I had been shifted in terms of the organizational chart of the company. And someone who I used to be, unilateral with, they put me under reporting to her, and we used to clash. And I actually had a tremendous amount of anger and frustration and resentment towards her. And, as I started to wake up, started to heal, started to focus on my side of the street and my interactions and my what, I started to change, and I started to get more intentional in the way in which I interacted with people. And the advice, I had a meeting and she was doing my review, my annual review. And here I am thinking, great, here's my arch nemesis who's going to be handling my review. I've had exceptional reviews, even in the midst of my insanity and all of my actions, attitudes, and behaviors when I was pretty sick and pretty much in my disease of alcoholism and addiction, and spiritual crisis at that time as well. But anyway, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this woman's going to destroy me, and it wasn't about her. It was about me and my fears and my insecurity and my reputation and what was written on the paper, because those things were important to me. I thought that my outsides truly defined my internal worth and value. And that stuff had been ingrained in me on a karmic level, on a soul level, and also in my childhood and in the way that my family interacted. And there's no finger pointing there, because all of that is a divine setup. All of that set me up to get me where I am today. But the advice I was given was, hey, before you go into this meeting, pray about it. you know? But also, why don't you condition the space? And she didn't use, my spiritual guide at that time didn't use the word condition the space, which is one of my favorite ways of looking at things from a daily perspective or in interacting with people. She gave me the advice of, hey, why don't you invite God into that meeting? Why do you think you have the answers? You have to go it alone. Why don't you just quite literally imagine that you're inviting your higher power into that meeting with you to guide and direct you, to speak through you, to hold space for that. And at that point in time, I had started to connect and make conscious contact with my higher self and my higher power. And I had started to see evidence of things working and shifting and turning out really tough scenarios and consequences of my actions starting to unfold quite miraculously based in me just opening up and asking for guidance and wisdom and trusting that the guidance and wisdom from my higher power and also my spiritual guide at that time helping me to hold space for my, stinking thinking. So that's the way that it was. Recognizing that maybe, Amanda, I didn't have all the answers, and what was going on in here might have been an illusion, or a distorted reality. So anyway, I remember going into that meeting that day, and the night before I had certainly prayed about it and asked for God to come in and to hold the space and in the highest light. And I remember before I walked into her office, I just said, hey, God, sit next to me in the chair next to me. She had 2 chairs in front of her desk. And I literally said, hey, God, just come on in, sit next to me in this chair. I trust that you've got me. And no matter what goes on, what dialogue happens, I'm going to show up. I'm going to own who I am. I'm going to own any consequences or any feedback she gives me, whether it's critical or constructive or praising me, whatever it is she throws my way, I'm going to be there for it. And I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to do it alone. And I went into that meeting that day, and I'm tearing up because this has been 8 years ago. And I really resented this woman. I actually, she made me so angry in a meeting one day because she was disrespectful. I worked in hospice and home health, and to me, she was disrespectful to one of our chaplains, a gentleman who I admired, who helped people walk through the death and dying process. And so I had some really major resentments, but I had been working through them. And so I had some fear about this, but I had been working through it, but I still had some anger. So I truly said, hey God, you take this. You help me, you join me, and I trust. And I did, I meant it. I didn't just say it. It wasn't just lip service at that point. It was like, whatever happens, I trust it's meant to be because this is a journey and my tests are becoming my testimony. And I went into that meeting that day and I experienced grace. It was a constructive conversation. I remember she held space for me. She lauded me for my courage to be honest in my struggles with my disease of alcoholism and addiction and facing that and coming back and making a living amends. She talked about my strengths and my assets. The feedback that she gave me, there was very little constructive or critical feedback that she gave me. And I walked out of that room that day. And I'll never forget this. And like I said, I'm a bit emotional about it because I recognized that by becoming willing to interact more intentionally, to ask for guidance and help, to truly trust that there is something bigger at work, and to own whatever it is the interaction is, what I'm learning from it, what I'm experiencing, what is happening, as long as I trust that there are greater lessons at work, things usually unfold more miraculously and abundantly than I can expect or, create and manipulate in my mind. So when I get out of my own way. So this month, recognize the astrology is freaking intense, okay? The numerology is setting us up for some intensity as well. The astrology, we're still in eclipse season. Mercury is retrograde in Gemini. We've got the second of 3 Saturn and Uranus squares. If you know nothing of what I'm talking about astrologically, it doesn't matter. Just know that the energy is ripe for butting heads, confrontation, misunderstandings, misinterpreting scenarios and situations, getting triggered, reaction. I mean, there's lots of energy, but there's lots of opportunity. There's lots of opportunity to really notice who you are, how you interact, and your intentionality in your interactions with other people, And when you get triggered, not if, when you get triggered or when you trigger someone else, we can trigger the heck out of people and not even realize it. I know that I do it. I've done it recently with some people, and it's hard sometimes for me because of my psychic abilities to be able to move those gifts away and to be able to be sometimes in space in friendships and relationships, whether they be with my siblings, with my family, with my mother, with my husband, friendships, clients. Sometimes it can be challenging for me on an energetic level with boundaries mentally and emotionally. And so I have to double down on that. But what I do know is that we can learn so much through our interactions with other people. So pay attention to what's being triggered or evoked in you, and not just triggered, what's being, what you're being called into experiencing, because this may not just be about being frustrated or angry or reactive, and noticing that internally within yourself, whether it's a mental trigger, an emotional gut visceral response, it's your body shutting down or signaling you in some way that it's in tension, it's in pain, it's in distress through disease or some kind of acute pain. But it's your energy field. It's your soul. It's your soul showing you, hey, here's what we've got coming up for you to potentially address, for you to potentially acknowledge, heal, process, whatever it may be. But it's also about, whoa, I just had so much fun with that person, or wow, did I learn a lot, or whoa, was that a moment of grace? Whoa, was that a moment of forgiveness that I offered or someone else gave me? So it's not just about the triggers, it's about, seeking out the peaceful interactions, the people that create inspiration in your life. And then when you do experience inspiration and joy, or someone acknowledging you, complimenting you in whatever light they may be, acknowledging that, feeling that, receiving recognition, compliment, peace, energy, whatever it is, and if you feel comfortable, becoming vulnerable to share with someone else and thank them. So this month, I have a couple of offerings. If you check out my blog, soulpathology.com, in the June blog, there are all sorts of tips to relationships and navigating relationships this month, so strategies and blind points. I've also got a free downloadable emotional treasure map, which is fabulous for being able to pause, step back, redirect your energy, set more intentional interactions. I think it's pretty simplified, yet it is boom, it will work. It's profound. And then also there are some journal prompts, a free downloadable with relationship journal prompts to really get you thinking about your interactions and relationships. And like I said in the beginning, this is not just about other people. First of all, it's about you. It's about me. It's about me recognizing what's going on in here. It's about deepening your understanding of your engagement with yourself, your mind, your emotions, your physical body, and then ultimately the dialogue with your soul and your higher power with God. So utilize this month to pay attention, to be aware, and bust up some darn patterns. If you see yourself in emotional ruts or patterns that are creating resistance versus creating change and awareness and expansion, see where you can make some tweaks in the interactions. And then also take this time. This isn't the best time to take action around confronting people. Mercury retrograde, eclipse season, Saturn square Uranus, and then the numerology. It's a 2 month in a 5 year, and the 2 is very interpersonal, relationship based, and the 5 is all about freedom and rebellion and dynamic change. So it can be very combustible. This is a time for contemplation, recognition, perceiving, seeing things differently, thoughtfulness, introspection, revision, revising. And once the sun moves into Cancer later in the month, and as we move out of Mercury's retrograde phase and post phase into July, July will be about the interaction, the creative intelligence that comes through. So this is a great month for really, really recognizing your interactions, again, whether they be interpersonal, intimate, or with yourself, assessing that, reassessing that, contemplating, thinking, paying attention to your energy. And then July is going to be the month to take action. And hopefully by the time July comes, and especially if you're willing to start participating with yourself and wherever you are on the spectrum of personal and spiritual development, and for those of you who have these tools and know them, capitalize on it, because guess what? It's a month for developing heightened intuition and activating greater levels of cognition within the brain. Because of all of the Gemini energy, I really do believe the more cognizant we are this month, apart from expanding our consciousness, I really do believe we have the ability to mutate and start to access greater levels of utilization of our brain waves, our brain frequencies, and the neural patterning, different parts of our brain interconnecting the right and left hemispheres, and really, really leveling up intellectually, consciously, on a soul level, on an energetic level, and then with people, with our day-to-day practical interactions to find deeper meaning and purpose and growth and healing. So I hope you all navigate June. How about this? I was going to say have a successful June, but I hope that everyone is able to really practice some patience with yourself, and introspection, and really get honest and dig deep with what's going on internally, and whatever you've got on your plate. Know that however painful or frustrating, heartbreaking, restricting and limiting it is, there's some sort of opportunity for breakthrough and lesson. And we need the evolution of ourselves and our souls and our consciousness. That is inviting in more light and love and starting to dissipate the fear and the darkness, because we are all beautifully divine, incredible beings. And we get to be here in these times. And these are tough times. But you matter, we matter, and we've got this. Be well.